This is a Flying Cow production.
Well, hello and welcome back to the Great Film Challenge. I, of course, am your host, Clay Johnson, the Flying Cow himself. And here with me today is my nephew, Aaron. Aaron, how we doing, buddy?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, yeah. Doing all
I'm
right.
good. Good. Who cares?
Good. Good. Yes. But yes, we are here. First release for July, and we are starting our blockbuster month. And we are starting our blockbuster month with one of the earliest blockbusters, kind of, made this type of film and, kind of idea a big thing, especially, finishing out the 70s and going into the 80s. And this film is 1975's Jaws, which was directed by Steven Spielberg, based on a novel. I cannot speak today. Written by Peter Benchley. It stars Roy Scheider, Richard Dreyfuss, and Robert Shaw, along with many, many more. Basically about shark attacks happening in the quiet New England, tourist town of Amity. I will say this is one of those films that both of us had already seen.
Yeah.
I saw this. I can't remember the first time I saw it. At least though, like 15 to 20 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
It was among those. I think this is probably the first time I watched it was because it was on the AFI list, and I was going through that, so it was an opportunity for that. I think, though, this is one of those films that I appreciate more and more when I watch it.
Yeah.
I think the first time I was just, sometimes you watch films, and especially like famous films, and you can get into a little bit of a judgmental brain, kind of like, okay, this is supposed to be so good, impress me, kind of thing. And I do remember liking it, but I think I had to get past myself a little bit as well. But when I've seen it a handful of other times, just in passing, or watching it with friends, or it's just on television, or things like that, and I appreciate it more when I watch it again in subsequent viewings.
Yeah.
What about you? Do you remember the first time you saw this movie?
I know I was younger.
Okay.
I mean, I didn't watch it when
Then
I was
you are
a kid.
now?
Yes.
Okay.
Not when I was like super young, but I remember having watched it several times before. I love it.
Yeah. I mean, do you think is this a film that you've seen like multiple times, or just like a couple here?
I've seen it multiple
times.
I really like the movie, so if someone ever offers it and I don't have anything better, I'm like, sure.
Okay, sure. So what are your general thoughts on the film?
They, especially for the time, did really well with like the fear factor and suspense.
Yeah, honestly, that was something that immediately caught me. Is, I will say there are definitely times that you watch films that you've already seen before, And because you've seen them before, you might, get out your phone, maybe do other things while you're watching a familiar film.
Yeah.
But this time I really kind of let myself get sucked in. And yeah, from the jump, man,
Yes.
Spielberg knows how to build that suspense.
Mhm.
He really knows how to play with that tension. And then, we talked about it in the opening moments of the film. This was the first pairing of Steven Spielberg and John Williams.
I love John Williams.
And I mean, subsequently, John Williams scored
basically everything you've heard.
The majority of Spielberg's films. I don't know if he's still working with him or if he's got another composer that he uses, but definitely these early films, you've got just some, groundbreaking, iconic scores from John Williams. And it's just some great stuff. Obviously everybody knows the and like it's just brilliant because it's really just those bare notes. I mean, obviously he brings it, but he builds the tension with so little.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, obviously the combination of Spielberg's storytelling mixed with John Williams' music really combines to make this a really tense, atmospheric film. But then, you've got your leads, you've got Roy Scheider, you've got Richard Dreyfuss, you've got Robert Shaw. I'm curious. Have you ever seen anything else with Robert Shaw in it?
Which one was Robert Shaw?
Robert Shaw is Quint.
He looks familiar,
sure,
but not like people I've seen from movies.
Sure. I mean,
probably someone on here, like 2 people listening, would get the reference to.
Sure. I mean, obviously, this is probably what he is best known for. But he is an English actor, and did a lot of Shakespeare and things like that. But I think probably the thing he's next best known for, that he actually did before this film, was he was a hired assassin in, I believe it's From Russia with Love.
That title is familiar.
Which is I think it's the second James Bond film. But he's a very, I will say Robert Shaw conveys so much without speaking. I mean, obviously
he was amazing.
The speeches that he gives with Quint are infamous, famous. They're really well known, but in From Russia with Love, he says very little, but he is just this ominous, imposing figure.
Yeah.
That is after James Bond throughout the whole thing. And he builds the tension just in how kind of impressive he is. That he could kill James Bond because they actually show him at the beginning of the film killing James Bond. You only find out later that it was like a duplicate or something, like somebody was made to look like James Bond.
Wow.
But yeah, so Robert Shaw is an impressive figure in this, playing Quint, playing the grizzled sea captain who we find out was part of an infamous military disaster, the Indianapolis, I think it's called.
USS Indianapolis.
And survived, was one of the few survivors of a shark attack. and all this kind of stuff. And, just the way that I think he's the only one. I'm pretty sure he was nominated for an Oscar for this. I'll have to double check my my thoughts there, but I feel like he was. I don't know. I'm not seeing of course, I forget to check these things out before we go on. Let's see. Oh, here we go. Accolades. So, you know what? It doesn't show any acting noms.
Oh, really?
But it was nominated for Best Picture and won Best Score, Film Editing, and Sound.
Huh.
Yeah, I mean, I could have sworn that he was nominated for this film. Maybe, let's see, was he nominated for a BAFTA, maybe? I see nothing in the BAFTAs either. No, Richard Dreyfuss was nominated, but not now I can't think of his name. Robert Shaw. Which I could have sworn it was the other way around. I will say, though, I'm actually also really impressed with Richard Dreyfuss, who, this is earlier on in his career, but he's definitely already Richard Dreyfuss. He's got that very kind of, he has a way of, being an important person that is like, I understand why Quint doesn't like him at first, because
Hooper.
Yeah. Because, I honestly really enjoy the antagonistic relationship between those two.
Yeah.
Because, Quint is very, salt of the earth and, using your wits and everything like that. Whereas Hooper is very much, he's interested in this stuff, and he's gotten all of his knowledge from like books, and he's got a little bit of hands-on, but it's kind of like that scientist hands-on, whereas obviously Quint is more, he's gotten his hands dirty, he's served on ships and all this kind of stuff. So he sees, and I mean Hooper even says that his family's rich.
Yep.
He really just does this stuff because he likes it.
Yeah.
But it also, in Quint's eyes, means that he hasn't earned his spot.
Yeah.
So he puts him through, he makes him jump through a lot of hoops in order, before he trusts him. And even when he does trust him, he still likes to kind of, bust his balls a little bit. And then you've got, Roy Scheider, playing Chief Brody,
Mm-hmm.
Who, we see that obviously, he is the one who has been taking responsibility for this whole situation the whole time.
Yeah.
The moment that anybody says shark attack, he wants to do the responsible thing, shut down the beaches. But of course, the mayor,
the mayor,
not a likable guy.
No, he sucked.
Really, lets his, fear of the town making money. And look, I get that it's important, but at the same time, if
those
you're being
people
told
are
by
worth
experts
more than your money,
right? If you're being told by experts, this is not safe, you need to put your town and your people first.
Really?
because he keeps saying, "Oh, well, we're gonna drive people away." And it's like, well, if people get eaten, they're gonna run away.
Yeah.
So let's make sure that we're clear first.
Yeah, let's shut down the beach.
Yeah. I will say I've never seen any of the sequels, but I have heard that in the second one he's still the mayor, which I'm just like, how?
That's funny.
It's because when it's finally when they finally do agree to shut down the beaches after 3 people have been eaten, 2 of them in the middle of a
regular swim days
that he insisted upon.
Yeah.
He is seemingly ruined.
Yep.
Yet apparently he comes back and is still mayor. I'm just like, okay, sure, doesn't make sense to me. Somebody's not paying attention. But so you've got Scheider, who, even though it is actually the mayor's fault, still feels responsible. So he, even though it is established several times at the beginning of the film that he does not water, he does not water. No, he does not like water. He doesn't like going out on the water. He lives on an island and refuses to go near the water. A point that Hooper points out, and he just thinks it's hilarious. I will say something else that I really enjoy about this film is and it's a thing that Spielberg had a knack for, especially early on in his career, is kind of bringing in, even in these, big plot heavy films with a lot of things going on, he always brings in, domestic influence. We get to see like real life. There we'll have the main conversation of the film going on, but there's always a couple people in the background having their own background films or their own little background stories and conversations and stuff like that. And it's like, well, that's how you're not going to be the only person talking in an office. They're going to be a bunch of other people. It just brings in that realness. It's very Altman-esque. So Robert Altman is a director who was known for kind of doing that kind of diegetic type of dialogue. He was very famous for basically people cutting other people off and other conversations going on. And I will say, I haven't seen a lot of Altman films. The ones that I have seen, very few are like really my type of film. But Spielberg does it in a way that feels not just real, but also relatable. Because his often center around families, whereas Altman's was more just kind of like general people in society and things like that. But so you've got Brody, who is taking all this responsibility, and up until he goes on the water seems like so smart, like honestly the only one that knows the right thing to do. And then they get on the water and he's the least competent of the 3.
I was gonna say, after that point he's just real quiet and he didn't do a whole lot.
Well, because he realizes he's out of his element. And I mean, I think if it hadn't been for the fact that he just felt so responsible, he wouldn't be there. I think if this had happened before, before the last couple of people died, then he wouldn't have gone out. But I think because it's gone so far, he feels like he has to see it through. And I like the fact that they show him being incompetent. I mean,
being human.
He almost gets Hooper cut in half by a rope by just not thinking about the way things should be done. Yet he still gets to be the hero at the end because Quint
this,
Somehow.
tough, grizzled guy who, is basically thought to be the only person that can take down this shark. He gets eaten first.
Yep.
And then Hooper, before that, Hooper goes missing. I will say, I think in the earlier drafts of this of the script, and maybe even in the book. Well, actually, I think the book is quite different. But so I don't know what is really in the book. But I think in a lot of early drafts, Hooper was also supposed to die.
Oh.
So which means that Brody.
Yeah.
The only one that doesn't really know his way around a boat is the one that ends up killing this shark.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it really kind of we get to see kind of that, imperfect hero.
Yes.
Which is always more interesting than a perfect hero.
Exactly.
But yeah, I mean, is there anything else about this film that you want to talk about before we move on?
No, not that I can think of.
All right. Well, we will be back next time. Make sure that you check out all of our socials at The Flying Cow Pod. Email at theflyingcowpod@gmail.com. Let us know what you're thinking. Check out all of the stuff that we've got going on there. But like I said, we will be back next time talking about the next film in our little blockbuster project here. Aaron, why don't you go ahead and tell us what the next film is? Can you remember? No, you can't. It's okay. It's Raiders of the Lost Ark.
I was thinking, but I was like, I can't remember for sure the date on that one.
All right. Yeah. No, it's Raiders of the Lost Ark is the next film. The first film in the Indiana Jones, I guess, series now. I'm so used to calling it a trilogy. That's what it was called.
I still think the first three are the best.
Oh, yeah, they still are and always will be. But make sure to check that out next week. But until that time, moo.
Moo.